this CD, which all these incredible artists that we've been working together for 2 years to make this thing happen, and it's finally done. And I have to say that every single one of the musicians on this disc, it was just an absolute joy and an honor to work with them. They're just amazing singers and amazing pianists and amazing people. A long time ago, I made a decision that, you know, I don't have time in my life for people that aren't fun to work with. So I like to only work with people that are fun to work with, and everybody was just fantastic. And it took us 2 years. The first part of the disc was recorded back in September of 2019. Yes, 2019, and we did that at the Fisher Center, at the Fisher beautiful Sosnoff Theater at Bard. And we recorded like about a disc and a quarter of music. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just sort of said, let's start recording this music. And then then it started to take shape of what it was, and then I realized it was a 2-disc CD, and Beauty Intolerable figures prominently in it, because Beauty Intolerable is this work that I wrote there's 16 songs in it, and for different voice types, and on the disc it occurs 3 times, because the original format is there, but the very first Beauty Intolerable song I ever wrote was part of On Loving, so it occurs in that song cycle. And then I arranged 4 of these songs for Stephanie, and it was such an incredible journey to create for her deliciously low voice that they became something different, and I felt they were different enough that they merited a whole group to themselves. And so I did that, and I'm actually, Stephanie, you'll be happy to hear, more people have asked me to make them lower and to make more versions for them. And I answered I said, you know what, a song should fit a singer like a glove. And I have no problem with making arrangements, because it also changes them. It gives them, you know, we did change notes. We changed notes, we changed registers. We did a lot of changing. And so it's different, but it's, you know, it's good. So that's what we did. And so then the second bit we did in the beautiful Morgan Library hall, Gilder Hall in the Morgan Library. And we did that we snuck in September, just when COVID was allowing a little bit of an opening. And for all of us, I think we hadn't been around humans, and we hadn't been making music together for quite a time. And it was very, very, very special to have these 2 days of rehearsals, and we actually performed for each other. And it was, some people were actually crying. We were just so happy to be making music in body and not just always on the screen. So that was great. And I got to meet Warren. Warren Jones preceded himself by reputation, but he's the only person on the disc I met for the first time working on this project. Everybody else I'd known for quite some time. And Warren was true to his reputation of being incredible to work with. So let's start with hearing some tracks. And so the idea is this: we're going to hear a track of each singer piano team, and we get to talk about the song or the experience or whatever we want to talk about, and play this track. And I made some PowerPoints to get the text up there, because we didn't film much. And I've never made, you know, I have to say this, I was a professor for some 38 years, and I never ever gave a lecture with a PowerPoint. But for this, my sister said, you have to have PowerPoint. So I learned how to do it, and I made them. So this is just to give you an idea of all the songs of Beauty Intolerable. And that poster, by the way, that's a picture of Edna St. Vincent Millay. In it, she's actually, I got this from the Millay Society, who I worked very intimately with while I was composing these. And this was actually a nude picture of her, but we were not allowed to use it in that way. So my wonderful designer, Guido Alvarez, put these colors and things around on it. And so this is Edna. And can we have the next slide? these are pictures I love of Edna because she's a mature woman and she's just herself, and she was a powerful figure. So let's go to Stephanie next, and Kayo, and there are some pictures I pulled up, and then let's talk about the song a little bit, and then we'll play the track. So Lucy, can you bring up? You've got them all here. So guys, you're unmuted. Kayo, you have to unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
So here we are. Wait, we unspotlighted them. We need them back. We don't need this. We don't need the we can get rid of the PowerPoint. Okay, there we go.
I love it. I love it.
There we go.
Hey.
Okay. So okay. There we go. There's Sheila. There's Stephanie. I think Kayo. There we go. Perfect.
Yay! Here we go.
Hey, Frank. So let's talk about how this happened a little bit.
Well, you just asked. That's all you had to do.
What was the most challenging thing about learning these songs?
Honestly, there was nothing challenging about it. They're beautifully written. They're so beautifully written. And what was really lovely, if Kayo will allow me to expound a little bit, this was the first time that Kayo and I really got a chance to spend a lot of time as collaborative partners, which is very new for us. And it's been amazing and wonderful. And what I love about the fact that you chose this song of the 4 that we recorded, this is the first Sheila Silver song I ever heard. And I remember hearing it the first time. I had a singer at Fall Island Vocal Arts Seminar sing it one summer. And I was knocked out, completely knocked out, and loved it. And loved just immediately felt the beautiful affinity you have with text, and the way you use rhythm is such a turn on. And it was wonderful, and it was great for Kayo and I to have this time together working on this incredible poetry and these songs, and to explore what you had done to change them for me, which I thought was really nice of you for one thing, but I think says something new about the songs.
I think
what
so.
Do you think, Kayo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really fun process as we read through the songs and trying to find just the right key that would make you, Stephanie, just feel your freest and most communicative. And then the process of working with Sheila as she changed notes, adjusted, and you were just amazingly flexible, Sheila, in that whole process, and also so creative in how you were making the adjustments. So that was a masterclass for me in how a composer works. It was so fun, and this is especially, it was especially fun for me because I was at Stony Brook as a student, which was where I met Gil. And also you, Sheila, but we didn't have very much contact back then. And it's only now in these past years when we both ended up in the Hudson Valley. Well, you've been here all along. I moved here
for a while anyway.
Yeah. And I moved here 15 years ago, so it's been such a blessing to be able to reestablish a relationship and deepen it. And as Stephanie said, is have the opportunity for the two of us to work more deeply together. So.
Just one other little thing that I think is we never really talked about, but I thought about a lot since, is that, it's interesting you show these photographs of Edna St. Vincent Millay as a mature woman. And the way you rewrote for me respects and acknowledges where I am in my life right now. And I think that's beautiful. And it makes me really eager to do more work like that with you in the future, to work with a mature voice that has new expressions and new limitations, and to work within those to really say something. It's amazing that, to sing poetry like this which is exceedingly, I mean, I said this to you many, many times. These are the sexiest songs I've ever sung. They are sexy and beautiful and carry an enormous amount of color and history. And as an artist who has a little bit of history behind her now, I was appreciative of that. So that's all I have to say about that.
So some of the singers wanted to read the text. I think Stephanie wanted to do it. So why don't you? You love reading text. She walked into the recording session and said, "Do you mind if I recite this first? I need to speak it before I go to the recording session." So she did. It was great.
Makes a difference. Makes a difference. So here we go. I, being born a woman, distressed by all the needs and notions of my kind, am urged by your propinquity to find your person fair, and feel a certain zest to bear your body's weight upon my breast. So subtly is the fume of life designed to clarify the pulse and cloud the mind, and leave me once again undone, possessed. Think not for this, however, the poor treason of my stout blood against my staggering brain. I shall remember you with love, or season my scorn with pity. Let me make it plain. I find this frenzy insufficient reason for conversation when we meet again.
Great. Okay, thanks. Let's hear it. It should work. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't think we made quite as many changes, but there were some changes in this one from the original one. And some of them we were more radical, but this one, especially one when we took it was a high soprano song, and I brought it down a whole tritone, and then we moved registers around completely. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. And we're gonna have questions from the audience are going to come at the end. So I think we should move on. And thank you. And next is Deanne, right? So you're going to sing. Why don't you introduce your song? So Kayo played for both Steph and Deanne.
Yes. This is the first time Kayo and I had worked together. It was so special. It was wonderful. Thank you, Kayo. This is difficult music. So it was really, really wonderful to just explore the nuances and really, really work to get it to get it good. We had fun. So yeah, it was a joy. And the 6 songs on this disc that I did, I got to premiere them way back when, which is really, so just to be part of creating them was such a special, can you guys hear me? I feel like I'm
Good.
maybe I can make it louder. It was just made it such a special experience. It's one of those life, important times in life when you can create new works. So working with Sheila has been just such a pleasure, such a joy. So thank you. This song, Only Until This Cigarette Has Ended, is such, Stephanie spoke so eloquently of Edna's radical, outrageous, just amazing character and who she is as an artist and as a poet. But she was just so irreverent, but just so modern. She was such a modern, interesting woman. Even though she died in the 50s, she was just breaking ground all the time. And this poem, would you like me to read it? Shall I read it?
Go ahead, read it. It's fine.
It's not very long, but it really speaks to, sorry, I had it here for a second. Here, hold on. Here it is. It is, only until this cigarette is ended, a little moment at the end of all, while on the floor the quiet ashes fall. And in the firelight to a lance extended, bizarrely with the jazzing music blended, the broken shadow dances on the wall. I will permit my memory to recall the vision of you, by all my dreams attended. And then, adieu, farewell, the dream is done. Yours is a face of which I can forget, the colors and the features, every one. The words, not ever, and the smiles, not yet. But in your day, this moment is the sun upon a hill after the sun has set. And one of the analyses of this poem is that the metaphor of the cigarette, that a relationship, as so many of her relationships did, only lasted a moment. And it lasted only as long as the cigarette did. And the ashes on the floor are what remain of her many very short and brief and passionate relationships. So there's a melancholy. It's about lost love. It's a melancholy, but it's also this fierce independence that she had. She was never a victim. And
Yeah.
she was a really interesting woman. So
I need to say something about that. She, even though she had these passionate love relationships with both men and women, even after they were over, the really important ones, she was friends with these people for her whole life. It wasn't like, some of them, I think she had flings and that was that, but she also was a really, really good friend to many, many, many people who she had at one point been a lover. And this poem might be about one such person. I don't know who, but because it's clearly a felt.
Yeah, there's not, I didn't see any record of her writing it about anyone. I think the consensus is that it tends to be more about her relationship to relationships in general.
Right.
I also like that she originally read it in Prospect Park in New York, which I lived in when I lived right near there when I first moved to New York. And so I don't know, I just have this lovely, I've read her for decades. So when you gave the opportunity to actually sing her work, Sheila, it was really special for me personally too. So yeah, it's wonderful.
So let's hear it. And here's the picture of us in the recording session. And the first one was Deanne at the premiere.
Until this cigarette
Very nice, beautiful. Right, and I think it's kind of obvious, but my voice as a composer kind of changed a little bit on these songs. I was listening to a lot of jazz at the time, and I think you can hear there's some bluesy kind of colors in the piano that I think was a kind of a new step forward for me at the time. Anyway, thank you. So let's move on to, we have one more Beauty Intolerable song, and then we have one of the rounds, which I'll tell you about when we get there. So this is Risa and Tim. Risa and Risa I knew from Stony Brook, and Risa sang some of these songs at, I think she premiered this at the concert for Elaine Bonazzi. It was which Tim organized, and this was, Elaine was in, everybody knows who she was. She was an amazing mezzo soprano, and she, I wanted to write some fun, happy songs. It was her retirement concert. I didn't want anything sad, and I was not always easy to find happy songs in as poetry, but this Thursday I love, it's another kind of whimsical song, and it was written in memory. It's not in memory, it was written, dedicated to Elaine. She was there and she heard it, and Tim, you want to add some stuff? Because I remember when we were first working on it, you respaced some chords for me.
You know, Sheila, I barely remember yesterday, so I can I can say a few things, but they won't be accurate. First of all, I have to say, I mean, these songs are really special to me just because of so many life connections. Certainly, Stony Brook, you, Sheila, being connected to Elaine through this, and Risa as well, because Risa and I met at Stony Brook many years ago. I think the first piece we did together, I think, was Mark Anthony Turnage Greek. Is that right? Which is a whacked out piece. It's a modern retelling of the Oedipus story that is incredibly difficult. So, which was a great welcome to Risa. to Stony Brook. And then I have such memories of Risa as well. When my dog is almost 11 now. When I first got her, Risa would come to my home and coach, and she would literally be playing tug of war with Pumpkin as we coached because she was so hyper. But I really enjoyed working on these songs. And I think part of the reason I don't always remember things over and over is that whenever I do something again, I get rid of my previous music and I analyze it over from the get-go. So I have new markings because at every stage that I look at new music, I discover things that I hadn't seen before. And that's what I love about these songs, that you just allow the singer to sing. And that sounds so simple, but it's so often not done in modern music. And they're great fun to play. And again, I love the cover, and I'm just so happy to be a part of the project.
So you want to introduce the performance at all?
Yes, so I have to say I agree with Tim so much. I had such a personal connection to these, partially because when I was first given these songs, it's because of Miss Benazzi and my affection for her as my voice teacher. And that's sort of, so every time I get a chance to revisit them, it's a way of sort of embracing my relationship with her every time. And I thought Sheila just really captured Miss Benazzi, particularly in this song. I remember one of the first words you used to describe it was sassy, which was, of course, Elaine to a T. And this particular song certainly has some sass to it. And one of my other fond memories is when we did the sort of the full performance of the entire songbook. Sheila arranged to have Tyne Daly come and then Tandy Cronin come, and they read the poetry before we did these songs. So here we had an opportunity to hear these wonderful actresses say these poems before we got a chance to sing them, and that really was a kind of stuck in my memory. So I kind of have their voices speaking it sort of in my head when I have a chance to sing them. But I've now sung these a few of these now a few times, and every time it's like greeting an old friend, and but also the chance to re-experience them in a new way. Sheila always goes back and digs back under the surface again, like, do we need to tweak this? Do we need to adjust this? Or what about we do this time kind of thing. So I love the fact that we're able to kind of, even with a song that might be familiar, still go back and dig deeper to try to make the music clearer, the poetry clearer, the performance clearer. One of the other things I love about Sheila is I feel like she really gives the singer an opportunity to have some say in the language of the vocal line, or at least in my experience, because she knew me through her opera, The Wooden Sword, was the first time I had a chance to work with Sheila. And our working together there, she got to know my voice, and therefore, she was really loved to do certain things that she thought I did well. So it was nice to have music that was kind of tailored to some of my strengths, and really was open to, to highlighting the lovely things that bring a singer's special qualities to light in the poem and in the song.
Risa has very pianissimo high notes, really high, really piano. She really does that. It's amazing. I don't think there are any in Thursday, but other things that we've done together.
But in this particular poem, I am going to read it just for a moment, and it's definitely a departure from the other two songs that we've heard so far. And the poem is, "And if I loved you Wednesday, well, what is that to you? I do not love you Thursday, so much is true. And why you come complaining is more than I can see. I loved you Wednesday, yes, but what is that to me?"
Okay. And there's our pictures. Great pictures, okay.
And if I loved you Wednesday, well, what is that much is true. And why you come complaining, complaining is more than I can see. I loved you Wednesday, yes, Wednesday. I loved you Wednesday, yes. I loved you Wednesday, yes. But what is that to me? But what is that to me?
Thank you. Okay, so next we have a little treat. During the recording session, John happened to film. We had a little performance on the Morgan Library. Before we recorded there, just for each other, we were allowed to have 10 people in the room, and we performed for each other. And John filmed one of the figs, and so I synced it up. It isn't exactly perfect, but it's kind of funny. And this is Chris Cooley, who has been my right-hand man, pianist through all of the workshops of my opera. He has been doing all of that, and we worked together. And so when we had to pick up some ends do some other things for this disc, so he came in and played for us, and he played on the fig. And I'm going to read. Because we're going to see them singing it. I didn't put up the words, but let me just read it to you. This is one of her most famous poems, and it's also one of her shortest, I think. And I wrote two rounds so that they could walk into it. The singer could walk in and they could walk out. So my candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light. And so that's kind of, and in a nutshell. So let's watch. This is the movie. There we all are with our masks in front of the Morgan Library. And
my candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. So my foes and my friends, it will not last the night. It is a
so that was fun. Welcome. Chris is in Lithuania. Welcome from Lithuania.
Hi.
All right. I think I'm concerned about time, so we're going to move right on. Next is Sidney. Yes, I don't have a program in front of me, but I think it's Sidney. Okay. Where's Sidney and Warren? There's Sidney, and Warren is coming up. There he is. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
So I remember the first rehearsal that we had of these songs in that space in, help me, Sidney, where was it?
At Riverside.
Riverside Church.
Yeah.
up in a room. It was very hard to hear, and we were spread out miles. I drove into New York City for that, and it was dead as a doornail. I couldn't believe what New York had been
It
like.
was Mrs. Rockefeller's old tea room.
But boomy, but it was good. We got to rehearse in there. So how did you guys work on learning these pieces? Because it was during COVID you had to do it.
Over Zoom like this. I've worked with Warren so many times, we kind of just talked it out and then put it together. We're, ensemble things like that, This was my first time singing a lot of Thoreau and Yeats. I've sung some texts by Paul Laurence Dunbar before, so it was interesting to discover like more about these poets and to put the rubber to the road,
Right.
with making that connection musically as well.
Right. And these songs were written in memory of Michael Dash, and I think next you'll see a picture of him, but we can watch that in a second. But he was a friend of mine, an incredible baritone and a countertenor, and he died of AIDS early on. He was 36. He sung at the Met in as a countertenor in Handel, and he did a lot of contemporary music, and he recorded my songs canto, and these were commissioned by Musicians Accord in the 90s. Laura Kaminsky, my dear friend's group, she had a wonderful group, contemporary music group, and so one text is Yeats, one text is Thoreau, and one text is the Paul Laurence Dunbar, and let's see Michael's picture, because he's there. Michael's picture is next. Oh, I guess it's next. There he is. There's Michael's picture. So he was African American, and I guess that's why I set the Paul Laurence Dunbar, thinking of him. And he was the boy soprano on Ancient Voices of Children, on Crumb's Ancient Voices of Children, which everybody in the contemporary music world grew up on. So he was quite an artist, and at the time he had a very, very enormous range. And I think Sidney, in these pieces, you're in the stratospheres, you're up and you're way down, because he had it, and there was a hope that he might be able to sing them, but he never did. And yes, Warren, please.
Sheila, I want to tell you, because I didn't have much of a chance to visit with you or anything like that, but I have to tell you something.
Okay.
I'm 69 years old now, and I'm still learning music that was written 200 years ago. And, because there's just too much music to learn. I mean, there's too much to do. And every time that I learn one of those 200-year-old dead composers, I feel like that I get a little bit of insight into what that person was like, because I can't meet them. And, one of the most gratifying things for me in doing these, that when I was asked to do these songs, is because it was a rare opportunity for me to investigate some songs, learn them, rehearse them with Sidney a little bit, and feel the spirit that is in the songs, because the three songs are so incredibly different in approach and in meaning and in flavor. And it's quite astonishing how different the three songs are. And then to meet you and to have, I had some precognition of your spirit from the music and the breadth of your spirit, but then to meet you in person and to compare my impression of your spirit with the actual living physical person sitting in front of me talking about her music was a delight, just a simple delight. And I had the best time. And as so many people here have said, now you may allow singers to sing, that's all very nice, but you allow pianists to play, because the music is entirely pianistic, and it's so idiomatic to fit into my hands. And I had the best time, and I just want to say a big, big, fat thank you for that.
I was so scared, actually. You were the only person I didn't know, and I was so scared, what if he doesn't like my music? I'll be, he's famous, and what will he say if he doesn't like my music? I was nervous about it.
Well, no need to be, no need to be at all. I'm always nervous to meet a composer too, because who knows, I may have read it entirely wrong, but it turns out that you are so totally flexible about letting people have their voice, as Deanne said, and it was just a delightful time. So, and I'm really glad to be here today and be invited to this. So, thank you.
So let's hear the Sidney's performance of We Wear the Mask.
We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human kind. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? They let them only see us. They let them only see us while we wear the mask. We wear the mask. We wear the mask. We wear the mask. We smile, but oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream. Otherwise, we wear the mask. We wear the mask. We wear the mask. We wear the mask.
Nice, very nice. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm watching the clock, so let's keep moving. Let's put up Lucy. We're going to hear Lucy and Ryan, tech people who are now our singers, artists, and Lucy has sung in my opera, The Thousand Splendid Suns, all the workshops, so I know her voice very well, and I asked her to sing this early work from 1978, which is very atonal and was written for me to play the piano and Karen Komar, who might be here tonight, I think, to sing. And we did it up in Boston. I had a Radcliffe Institute grant at the time, and so I was there for a year, and we did a bunch of performances of it. And so this disc is really comprehensive of all of my non-operatic vocal music. Pretty much, and these songs are really hard, and I wrote really hard music back then. I guess I still do, but I really did back then. And so, so Lucy and Ryan, you want to say something, and then we can hear them?
Sure.
Well, even back then, you loved pedal points.
I did.
I mean, it was really fascinating having gotten to know your music really through A Thousand Splendid Suns, but also through some study that I was doing at the time of Beauty Intolerable, just so I could get to know your voice better as I prepared to work on A Thousand Splendid Suns with you. it was really fascinating then to move back in time and see this earlier version of yourself and your compositional style, and to see the ways there were so many parallels that remained, and to see how you had developed over the years. And these Sappho texts are so beautiful and so evocative. So it's a real honor to get to be a part of bringing them back.
They're fragments. So we picked two really short ones to give you an idea of what they're like.
Like a quince apple ripening, ripening on a tall branch in a tree top, not once noticed by harvesters, or if not noticed, not reached. Like a hyacinth in the mountains, trampled by shepherds, until only a purple stain remains on the ground. As the wind swoops on an oak shakes my heart. If you will come, I shall put out new pillows for you to rest upon. Irresistible and bittersweet, that loose burn of flames. Reptile-like strikes me dead.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will just add a caveat to what Warren said. That's definitely a lot of fun to play, but that ain't no piano part. It's so much fun because it is. I mean, you orchestrated that,
Right.
and it's all the sounds are between the cracks, as it were, and it's really fun to play for that reason. All the sonorities make the piano sound like it ain't no piano.
Right,
So,
right. Well, I orchestrated it after. I didn't know when I was writing it that it was going to be orchestrated. That came way after, but whatever. But
it sounds like it.
but,
Anyway.
it fits though. It all fits in the hand. It all does. So, Gil, are you there? And did Dawn make it? Is she here? Did Dawn make it? Dawn had to go get a vaccination. I don't know if she made it back. Did she?
I have no idea.
Okay, all right. So I guess she didn't make it back quite yet. And so let's talk about these wonderful songs. Gil and I have collaborated for years. I found a picture, Gil, the other day that when you premiered my piano preludes at the museum in Huntington, I look about 25 and you look about 26. I mean, I'm going to send it to you. And so we've written many. Gil has played more music of mine over the years than I think any other musician, and it's always been a great joy to work with this wonderful artist. And when Diane passed away, I just felt like I wanted to write something, and I will say I never had the experience of writing anything in one weekend. But this first song, the Shakespeare, Gil told me that Diane liked Shakespeare, so I picked some Shakespeare, and it came like just came right out. It was the most unworked piece I ever wrote. Whenever something comes easy, I always pay attention because things don't often come easy, and when they do, it's a gift. And I think she was helping me. But you want to say something about the songs? And I've got some nice, cool pictures that we can put up.
Sure. Well, as Sheila said, we know each other a long time. She was, I think, a teenage young lady at Tanglewood when I knew her the first time. And she was a piece of work then, as she's a piece of work now. If you think about it, all of these songs are so developed from such personal connections. Every one of the songs, every one of the people involved. And Sheila, I would think you have such a voice, and yet the songs are so different from one another, and you use text so beautifully. And I think, to say you're one of the outstanding composers of this kind of music of our time. For a long time, you don't write modern music, you don't write tonal music, you write your own music that has knowledge of the past and yet is of the present. And you always sound like yourself. It's always idiomatic. And about these songs, the texts so beautifully represent my wife. When I play them, I have to not think about what they represent, but the Shakespeare text is very beautiful, from Romeo and Juliet, and really speaks to who my wife was. And the Edna St. Vincent Millay text also, I always find that remarkable. And I've loved playing these songs and all of your music over the years. So thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. So let's see the pictures. Maybe you want to say something about them. That's this picture, by the way, I came from when you performed on Loving at NEC. And let's see the next one. So this one is a little fuzzy, but it's quite beautiful, I think.
Yeah, you see that's a photo of my wife, and very representative photo, even though it's blurry.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and
like an impressionist painting.
It is who she was.
And this is one of your grandsons?
Yes, it is one of my grandsons, and they all represent Diane very well, the photos. They're beautiful. So, and So, you know, Sheila, it was very touching that Sheila, who didn't know Diane so well, but Diane was in a way easy to know. She was very gracious, gentle, welcoming.
Very
And
well.
I remember Sheila coming to a Thanksgiving dinner once, and well, she met Diane here and there, and they made a very strong connection. It's easy to make a connection with Sheila. Sheila is Sheila, and she's very open, and she is who she is, and there's no fuss or muss, and she says what she means all the time. And
Sometimes get in hot water for that.
that's okay. Yes, sometimes you do, but you say what you mean, and it's delightful and refreshing to be around you always. To play your music is particularly gratifying.
Look at this beautiful picture.
She doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night, like a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady o'er her fellows shows. The measure done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers, make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now, forswear it sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night. She doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night.
A beautiful performance.
Thanks for writing that, Sheila.
Yeah. Wow. You know, it's just the ending was, I knew I was just going off into the clouds. I knew it was going into the heavens. It was something. So this is, we've heard this is the end of the formal thing. Formal presentation. I want to open the floor to questions, but I also want to introduce our recording engineer. I saw Judy Sherman a minute ago, and I saw Jean come in there somewhere in there. Is she, can you guys unmute yourselves or come forward and just say hello? It was incredible working with these two people. There's Judy. She runs a tight ship, man. You don't mess with Judy Sherman.
I was given a bullwhip early on, and I've been able to use it.
You basically do whatever she says, and you do it fast. But you did a great job on this. It was.
You can. I often say I can only ruin it. When you have musicians and singers like this, what you want to do is capture what wonderful things they're doing.
Right.
And that's not always so easy given the ranges of these voices. But we weren't making silk purses out of sow's ears. I was hoping I just wouldn't make a sow's ear out of these silk purses. I mean, it was amazing. I'd go out on the stage and listen and think, oh boy, I hope I can make it sound like that in there. So, but whoops, that's sending me a text.
My apologies. While we were during the last song, a raccoon broke into my house, and I suddenly had to vanish. So I just made a quick apology, but I'm back, and I apologize for making an interruption. So please continue.
Anyway, these sessions were really a joy, and thank you, Sheila. This was one song after another. It just, there's so much in there.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Well, I think it's time. I mean, I want to ask some questions. Before we open it up to questions, I just want to say, everybody should grab a glass of something. I've been looking at this wine and not drinking it all evening. So thank you all. It was just an amazing project. In a way, I kind of wish we could do it all over again, but I know we're not going to do that. But it was just such a joy for everybody. Thank you. I just can't thank you all enough. So cheers, and here's to a long life for this project.
You're here.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. So do people want to, first of all, do any of our artists want to say anything? And then we'll open up the floor to anybody who wants to say from outside. Lucy, you can tell if any of the artists can actually just unmute themselves, I think, and talk.
I am not bashful, Sheila. I have to ask you a question. This is Warren.
Okay.
Sheila, I'm interested to know, it's been very fascinating for me to listen to the performances today and to listen to the choices that you make as a composer about when to repeat words.
I was thinking of that myself.
and I'm interested to know, is that something, is that an organic part of your process, in the sense that do you start before, for example, the song that you just did with Dawn and Gil?
Yeah.
Did you start out meaning to repeat the beginning of the song at the end, or was that something that just came organically as the music flowed out of the text?
Well, I will answer honestly. I always try to never repeat the text, and when I was
Really?
And when I was teaching, I would be very hard on students if they brought in all this repetition. But that said, you can see it happens all the time, and it's intuitive, and it comes at the moment. It's like, I need more, and I needed an ending for that, and it just comes, and you have to follow your intuition. So I never set out knowing I'm going to repeat anything. I'm setting out not to repeat anything, and I always fail at that. Not always. I mean, many of the songs I don't repeat, and like in opera, you do repeat sometimes, but a lot of times you can't repeat. It just, repetition is, it's intuitive, and it's not what I try to do, but it's what happens sometimes.
Well, in the same way, see, the repetition of the O that Dawn sang is in a certain way the most telling repetition of all, because it really does allow her to just color what the words have said. And bravo for that song. It is such a beautiful song.
Thank you. Thank you. She sings it beautifully. Yeah.
And Gil, you play so beautifully. Thank you so much.
I have to say, when I told Gil that Warren was playing on the disc, this is before I met Warren, I was afraid of him. And Gil said, "Oh, this guy's a genius." And then he went on to tell me this story about not only could he play, but he filled in something about Gil. You can tell it, but he stood up and he sang for a recording session, something, because the singer was sick and couldn't come in. And so that was my introduction to Warren from Gil. So does anybody else want to say anything of the artist, and then we can have some questions from the floor if you want.
I have something I'd like just to add, just in reflection, certainly because of the time that we're in, that I know we've been talking, some of us as the artists, about the joy it was to sing and to sing this wonderful music. But I have to say, one of my joys was also in the sort of little windows Sheila mentioned in September, when we actually got to be together for those few hours. Was just, it was emotionally exciting, wonderful, draining, all of those things, not just to be able to also sing and collaborate with these wonderful artists, but also to be able to sit and listen to them. I hadn't heard Sidney do his songs until we were had a chance to kind of sneak in and hear some of his rehearsal, and how powerful it was. Or to hear, that particular day I got to hear Lucy, and of course I got to hear Deanne and Chris play, and Warren play, and it was just it's just overwhelming almost to kind of be living in the time that we're living in, and to have that music connection with these artists and with Sheila's music. And so I know it's a little of a personal aside about the experience, but it just kind of is added to this particular celebratory moment, just the chance to share and to listen and to hear live music like that at a time. So
just piggybacking on that too. I have some fabulous photos of us in the Morgan Library, all with our masks on doing this. And I have this fabulous one of you, Warren, with you had one of those shields too that he was playing with. So he was like playing in a hazmat suit, and it was historic actually. And we weren't supposed to take those photos, and we weren't supposed to share them. So I haven't shared them, but they're pretty fabulous.
Deanne, some of them are on the website now.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to the page with the page where Beauty Intolerable, the recording pictures, I put a bunch of recording pictures up, and some of them were Deanne's actually. She sent me, so those.
Warren is too modest, but the story was that the Juilliard Quartet was playing. It was Haydn, right?
Yes, it was Haydn's Seven Last Words of Christ.
Okay, he's left Seven Last Words of Christ, which can be done string quartet or string quartet and voices. And there was a quartet of voices and playing with the Juilliard Quartet, and the tenor somehow couldn't make it. And Warren was coaching the group, basically. Oh, well, he can't make it. Well, then I'll sing. And he sang on the spot for the recording. So quite an amazing feat. It was Jan, the Gaetani, was in it, and she was the one who told me about it, as well as Joel Krosnick, who was in the quartet.
I can tell you that the fifth of those movements begins with a pizzicato in thirds in the second fiddle and the viola, and the tenor says the words, "Jesus was thirsty." And when I looked out at Carnegie Hall and saw 3,000 people on Good Friday afternoon, and they're going dum dun 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 dun, and it was just going to be me saying Jesus was thirsty. And believe me, Jesus was very thirsty. He was really thirsty.
That's a great story. Anyone else? So if we want, we can have a couple questions from the floor. If anybody, I guess the way to do it would be to, Lucy, you help me out here. Do they raise their hand? Do they unmute themselves? How does it work?
I think either could work. If you're on a computer and you can see the reactions button, you can click that and then raise your hand. Otherwise, you could type a question in the chat or even just pipe up yourself.
Oh, look, there's all these chat things. I never saw them all before.
Karen, do you want to say something?
Karen wants to say something. Karen Komar, Chariessa was first performed by her. I don't know how she how do you do this? I don't know how to do this. Karen Komar. Just a minute.
Karen, you seem to be unmuted, but I don't know if your microphone is picking up your voice because we can't hear you.
Or see her. I don't see her either. Oh, here she is.
Oh, Zoom.
I mean, I think actually everything worked pretty well considering how, I mean, there she is. Now we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I think that it's possible if you go to the microphone that's in your lower left-hand corner and you click the little caret that's next to it, it should bring up a bunch of different options there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so happy to have been here today. This is such a privilege for me. And I would like to share with you all that I met Sheila when she was just a very young thing and was at Tanglewood. I was a lot older and we became great friends. And at the time she was not yet really fully discovered. And so I've observed her over the years get to where she is now. And it's been such a privilege. And to sing with her, to be the first performer of her Chariessa, which she wrote for my voice when she was a fellow at the Radcliffe Institute. That was such a privilege. I had also applied to try to get support for doing a concert of all contemporary music, which I was specializing in. And I did not get the fellowship and she did. So I did the piece Chariessa for my voice. So in a way, I was represented there at the Radcliffe Institute through Sheila. And I always, I'm very grateful to her for that. So Sheila, I just discovered that you were having this party today, and it's been wonderful to be here with you.
For coming, and for those of you that don't know, can you hear me? Because I don't see me, but it doesn't matter. The Chariessa means beautiful woman in Greek or ancient Greek. So that was where the title came from. The Sappho songs are about a beautiful woman, kind of woman with a capital W. And so that's where the title came from. And we had a lot of fun back then putting them together.
We did.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions from or comments from anybody?
Sheila, Adelaide Russo has asked, what are you working on now?
Now everything is solo. Everything is solo. I wrote solo trumpet pieces, solo piano preludes. Actually, I've been working away on those. I'm dedicating them to different pianists. Gil got the first one, and Gil, you should know I'm almost done with number 6. So I think as a group of 6, it's time to liberate them a little bit and get them out. But solo violin, and now I've been asked to write something for solo voice. So it's solo right now, but hopefully soon it'll be back to human beings interacting with one another in a same space.
And can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I just want to weigh in from the record label to say how wonderful on all fronts, from the from the music to the performances, to the recording, to the whole production. You all are to be congratulated. I'm so proud that this is part of our catalog.
Thank you, Susan.
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you. And it's been wonderful. And I think she recorded this, so we might put it up on the web page if anybody wants to see this that didn't see it. But thank you all for coming. Thank you, musicians, so much. And you know, Adelaide asked what I'm working on. I haven't been writing any voice music, and I gotta say, I really miss it. And I'm finding it very hard to write solo instrumental music right now. I really miss the voice. I miss the text. I miss the personality of setting something. So writing instrumental music for me right now happens to be a big challenge. So voice writing is easy compared to instrumental writing. So thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
And tell your friends and students and people about the discs, and it's available everywhere. And thank you for these definitive performances, because for those of us who are in the upper echelon, these will hopefully last as definitive performances of all this work. So thank you. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Sheila. Bye.
Sheila.
Thank you, everybody.